To understand the crime, you first have to understand the predator. Victor Lustig didn't look like a thief. He didn't wear a mask. He wore custom-tailored three-piece suits. He didn't carry a gun. He carried a silver cigarette case and a smile that felt like an inheritance. He spoke 5 languages with the fluidity of a diplomat and possessed a calm so profound it could settle a riot. Lustig's philosophy was simple. The bigger the lie, the more people want to believe it. He knew that humans aren't driven by logic, but by the twin engines of greed and the fear of missing out. He arrived in Paris in 1925, a city in transition. The Eiffel Tower, originally built for the 1889 World's Fair, was only supposed to stand for 20 years. By the mid-20s, it was an aging relic. Rumors were swirling in the press that the cost of repainting and repairing the structure was becoming a burden the city couldn't bear. While the citizens of Paris complained, Lustig saw a window of opportunity. He saw a silhouette of iron against the sunset, and he saw a for sale sign that no one else could. The con began with a piece of paper, not just any paper, forged stationery from the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. Lustig invited 6 of the city's top scrap metal dealers to a strictly confidential meeting at the Hotel de Crillon, one of the most prestigious addresses in France. Just think about the psychology of that room. These were hard-nosed businessmen, men who dealt in tons of iron and cold hard cash. When they entered that suite, they didn't find a criminal. They found a high-ranking government official, the Deputy Director General, who looked exhausted by the weight of a national secret. Lustig played the role of the reluctant bureaucrat to perfection. He spoke in hushed tones, talking about the unfortunate state of the tower. He lamented that while the public loved the monument, the structural decay had reached a point of no return. The tower, he told them, was to be demolished. But to avoid a public outcry, the contract for its 7,000 tons of high-quality scrap iron would be awarded in total secrecy. He wasn't selling metal, he was selling an elite membership to a secret club. Among the 6 dealers was a man named Poisson. In every con, there is a mark, someone whose ambition outweighs their intuition. Poisson was a nouveau rich striver. He had money, but he desperately wanted social standing. He wanted to be the man who secured the biggest contract in French history. He wanted his name whispered in the halls of power. Lustig watched Poisson, and he saw the way the man leaned in when he mentioned the sensitivity of the deal. But Poisson wasn't entirely a fool. He had a lingering doubt. Why all the secrecy? Why a hotel room instead of a government office? Lustig sensed his hesitation. A lesser con man would have pushed harder or panicked. Lustig did the opposite. At their next private meeting, he pivoted. He leaned back, let out a long sigh, and confessed to Poisson that his life as a government official was difficult. He hinted that his salary was meager, that he had expensive tastes, and that a man in his position often required extra considerations to ensure things moved smoothly. It was a masterstroke by asking for a bribe. Lustig proved he was a real corrupt government official. In Poisson's world, an honest man was suspicious, but a crooked politician. That was someone he understood. That was someone he could do business with. The transaction was a ballet of deception. Poisson handed over a certified check for the bribe and the initial payment for the tower. In return, Lustig handed him a folder of worthless, forged documents. The moment the door closed, the Count didn't celebrate. He went straight to the bank, cashed the check, and boarded a train for Vienna. Lustig waited in Austria, scanning the French newspapers every morning. He expected to see his face on the front page. He expected an international manhunt, but the days turned in 2 weeks, and the news from Paris remained silent. Poisson, realizing he had been utterly humiliated, was too ashamed to go to the police. Admitting he had bought the Eiffel Tower would make him the laughingstock of Europe. He chose silence over justice. He ate the loss, and Lustig realized something terrifying. He had just committed the perfect crime. Most men would have retired. Most men would have taken the fortune and vanished into the shadows of history. But Victor Lustig was an addict of the game. He realized that if the crime wasn't reported, then in a way, the crime didn't exist. So, 6 months later, the Count returned to Paris. He checked into a different hotel. He printed new stationery. He invited a new group of scrap metal dealers. He used the exact same script, the exact Same secret government burden and the exact same hotel suite, and incredibly, he sold the Eiffel Tower for a second time. This time, however, the mark wasn't as prideful as Poisson. When the second dealer realized the deputy director had vanished with his money, he went straight to the authorities. The alarm was sounded. The name Victor Lustig began to echo through the corridors of the S. But Lustig was already gone. He had crossed the Atlantic, heading for the wide-open playground of Prohibition-era America. The Eiffel Tower was just a chapter. In the United States, Lustig became a legend. He was the man who sold the money box, a beautiful mahogany device he claimed could print $100 bills using a secret chemical process. He would demonstrate it for greedy marks, letting the machine slowly churn out a genuine bill every 6 hours. By the time the victim realized the machine was just an expensive box filled with a few real bills, Lustig was 3 states away. He even crossed paths with Al Capone. He convinced the world's most dangerous mobster to invest $50,000 in a stock deal. Then he kept the money in a safe for 2 months without touching it and returned it in full, claiming the deal had failed. Why? To build trust, Capone was so impressed by Lustig's honesty that he gave him a $5,000 reward. Lustig had successfully conned the man who couldn't be conned, simply by doing nothing at all. But every orbit eventually decays. Lustig's downfall wasn't a brilliant detective or a smarter criminal. It was the oldest story. In the book, A Woman Scorned, his mistress, Billy May, discovered he was having an affair. In a fit of jealous rage, she called the feds and gave them his location. In 1935, after one of the most high-stakes foot chases in New York history, the Count was finally cornered. Even in prison, he was a ghost. He managed to escape from the federal house of detention. In Manhattan, using a rope made of bedsheets, casually pretending to be a window washer as he descended the building in broad daylight. He was caught one last time and sent to the one place that could hold a man of his talents. Alcatraz. Victor Lustig died in 1947. On his death certificate, under occupation, the clerk wrote, "Apprentice salesman." It was the final perfect joke of a man who spent his life blurring the lines between reality and fabrication. Lustig didn't just steal money. He exposed the cracks in our collective psyche. He proved that we see what we want to see. We see a government official because of a suit. We see a bargain because of our greed. We see a monument because of our pride. The Eiffel Tower still stands today, 10,000 tons of iron held together by millions of rivets. It's a symbol of endurance, but if you look closely at its sweeping arches, you might just catch a glimpse of the man who sold it. He reminds us that the world is built on trust, and that in the hands of a master, trust is the most dangerous currency of all. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most fascinating characters. See you next time.